Alrighty, guys, I'm Orthodon, and we are here for a review episode, which is something a little bit different than the reactions I normally do, of Season 1 for Seven Deadly Sins, because I am going to be starting Seven Deadly Sins actually immediately after this video. I'll be recording the first episode of what's considered to be Season 2. It's only like a 4-episode little thing, and then it jumps into what I think is considered Season 3, which is the actual 24 episode like series. I'm sure the 4 episode one still is like a series in itself, just short, but regardless of that, yeah, so I'll be jumping into that immediately after I finish this video. But I wanted to talk about Season 1, what I know of it, and what my thoughts were on like all the characters and everything, just to kind of get it out there. Since you guys unfortunately didn't get to see my reactions, I watched the show before I started reactions, and excuse me, and then I rewatched it just a few days ago. I binged it to rewatching it just so I can get like everything refreshed in my memory and everything, because there were a lot of things I forgot, and I didn't want to do like I tried doing the rewatch series for My Hero Academia, and it just didn't get a lot of views and everything, so I decided that I'd probably stay away from just rewatching things and stick with just reactions. So I will say, just to get it off my chest in like the beginning and get that over with, I've stated it in a lot of my other shows. If you've seen my other content, I'm not a fan of fan service. So, the amount of fan service in this show with Meliodas, grabbing, Elizabeth, it's never been, my cup of tea. It's just something that I'm like, all right, I'll chuckle at it as like a this is stupid sort of thing from me. But I mean, doesn't mean you guys have to hate it. So you'll probably get some cringy looks from me because I'm sure it still happens in season 2. I will say that the only spoiler I have that might play into season 2 and 3, it's not even that big of a spoiler, is I've heard someone say, I can't even remember who or when, or if I'm even making it up at this point, to be honest, but I'm obviously not going to like look it up to see if I'm right, is that I've heard that there's a reason why Meliodas is so pervy like that, and like grabby and stuff. But even if there is a reason for it, I still don't think it justifies it and makes it like reasonable to me. So when I start season 2, you'll probably see me already be like, oh, this again, kind of thing. But that's that. I wanted to get that out of the way because I do really like this show. It's just that's probably like the only aspect about this show I don't like. But yeah, so we have our characters that we met in season 1, and we have characters talked about that we haven't met and stuff like that. We have let's see if I can remember all their names, even though I just binged it. It's still a decent amount of characters. We obviously have Meliodas and Elizabeth that I just mentioned. We have Hawk, which is the talking pig, the scraps disposal, right? We have Bon, the Foxen of Greed. I'm not going to remember all their animals that go with it. Also, Meliodas is a Dragonson of Wrath, right? And then we have... I guess I'll talk about each one as I list them. So Hawk's talking pig, might as well talk about him or her a bit. I do have my theories about Hawks. I don't know. I'm sure other people have thought about it as the series went on. I've always thought that maybe he is a sin in disguise. And at this point, we only have one sin that we have yet to meet, which is Escanor. Is that what his name was? I believe he's... am I gonna forget what sin he is? Because we have Wrath. He's Lust, isn't he? Or do we already have Lust? Because we have wrath, we have greed, we have gluttony, because that was Merlin, right? We have, shoot, trying to keep this all in my head is rough. Not too bright, apparently. What was Gother? I can't remember what Gother was. Is Gother lust? But then we have King, who's sloth, right? And then we have Diane, who's envy. Maybe are we just missing? I just can't remember what Gother is. I guess it's either lust or what's the one I'm not thinking of? We have wrath. I'm trying to think back to like Full Metal Alchemist 2 and those characters as well. Wrath, greed, sloth, lust, envy, which is 5. What are the last 2? Now I think I already missed one. Okay, well, I'm gonna put this on hold for now, but Esgunner, I think, is his name, or something like that. You guys probably know who I'm talking about. It's the guy who didn't show up in Season 1. I might look up Season 1. I think I can look that up on my anime list and see the characters without seeing who they actually are and getting spoiled. I hope not. But maybe I'll do that at some point during this little discussion. Once I get through all the characters that I can think of, and maybe going through, I'll have an epiphany. But I've always thought that the one sin that we haven't seen yet could possibly be Hawks, because for one, everybody in the world says, "I don't know how a talking pig can exist," which leads me to believe that talking pigs don't exist. But there was a moment when, towards the beginning, that I think Elizabeth said that when she was a kid she always wanted a talking pig, but her dad wouldn't get her one. I think. But then there's other parts in this show that like so many characters have said they've never seen a talking pig before. So I don't know. I'm unsure about my theory on that, but you know, we had Hawks get roasted by was it Hendrix? Is that his name? The big demon, the guy that injected himself with demon crap and went full demon, and that's what like the season ended on, you know? And Hawks defended Meliodas from an attack and ended up getting crispied, but then got revived into a smaller version, which seems like, you know, a talking pig is one thing, but then being able to be like reincarnated into a younger version of yourself, it just leads me to believe that there's more to Hawks that we don't know, and that maybe there's some kind of spell. I had always thought that maybe up until the end of the season, that maybe Merlin put a curse on Eskuner, or whatever his name is, and that turned him into Hawks, you know. But then Merlin showed up, and I think Merlin addressed Hawks at one point and acted like she didn't know who he was, like who Hawks was, or like what Hawks was, you know. So I don't know. That's my crazy theory going into the show. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out for that. Elizabeth is a character that I, you know, really I respect her motivations and I respect her drive, especially that moment was pretty badass when, even though she, you know, I guess up until the end of the season wasn't strong, you know, the time that she walked straight into the bugs to rescue that kid, even though that kid ended up not being an actual kid, you know, and then also when she managed to like get the bell away from him and stuff like that to stop the trance, like that was just some really cool moments from someone who isn't strong showing so much strength, you know, at least like physically. She's always been pretty emotionally strong to make it through all like the stuff that had gone down to her and her family and everything, but now she is a apostle, I think they called her. She is a half half goddess, half human, I think it was. And so she has this like druid magic power kind of stuff that allows her to heal and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting if she learns to control that more, because I think right now she only does it when she's like extremely emotional, if I'm not mistaken. I don't think she has any control of it. And I think the season also ended with her eye like always being that red now that she is like truly awakened. I wonder if that's always going to be a thing or if that ended up fading. I can't quite remember that, but it kind of looks cool, you know, and all that. So Bon, I like him. I do think that he's a really cool character. He's not my favorite character, but I've always been a fan of like the regeneration power. I think it's like a cool thing, and I mean, I guess Wolverine kind of has it now that I'm thinking about it. But a lot of the times, the regeneration power, especially in anime, is reserved for the bad guy, and then the hero has to overcome it, right, with his strength. But it's not often that, you know, one of the, you know, good guys, if you consider Bond good. I mean, he is good. You know, he has some bad tendencies, but he is a good guy, you know. Um I I like that he has the regeneration because it's not often you see it on the hero side, and seeing it be used as a, you know, protagonist, you know, weapon kind of thing. So pretty cool. Meliodas has some kind of like low level regeneration too, doesn't he? Because of his demon stuff, I think. I mean, really, all the seven deadly sins are just ridiculously strong. So, Diane, she's a cool character. I've grown to like her a lot more, especially with the flashbacks we got between her and King. I wish she did remember a lot more about like how much King did for her when they were younger and everything, and or how much they did for each other, really. But she doesn't quite remember yet. I'm sure that'll eventually be something that she remembers. I think that'd be a plot point, you know. Um, but she's pretty cool. Her like connection to the earth allows her to, you know, do a lot of like earth bending sort of stuff, which is really neat. Um, Obviously she's just like strong and stuff. Granted, in comparison to the other sins, you know, Meliodas is shown to be like just as strong half the time. So it's like her giant strength is really only giant strength when in comparison to some of the other characters that aren't the sins, because all the sins are just freakishly strong. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe she is like physically stronger than Meliodas, but yeah. Um, as for Gother, I like his like literal nature and how he just says what he thinks. I think he's like a really neat character. Usually I enjoy him on screen. I like how he does his little like hand poses and stuff like that randomly in the shots, you know. It's just like a fun character that you get to see. Um, who am I forgetting? I'm forgetting someone, aren't I? Merlin was very cool. Her outfit is once again part of that fan service that I'm like, all right, she didn't have to be in like the smallest bikini possible, but she is, so whatever. Um, but the she seems like very strong and useful to have in the group. And I believe she did join in the group because she left with the king, healed him, and then came back like right at the end of the fight or right by the final battle ish, around there, and then said, "I'll stick around with you for a while." And stuff like that. So it's gonna be cool to get to know her because we barely had her. You know, we had her in a couple episodes showing her stuff, and she's a really cool character. I was worried they like I think they teased her as possibly being like a bad guy and like betraying the sins and stuff like that, but I don't think it's quite what happened. But she seems pretty cool for now, so but is that all the characters we have? I'm trying to remember. I think it might be that we have for now. At least all like the bigger characters, you know, for like the Sins, and then Hawks, who's just along with them. Oh, I think it's a Sin. But anyway, um, man, I can't believe I'm forgetting the last Sin, and it's bugging me so much. Wrath, greed, lust, envy, sloth, gluttony, and then that should be all of them, right? Unless I already said gluttony. I don't think I said gluttony already. And then there should be one more. I've watched Full Metal Alchemist like so many times that I'm trying to compare it to the characters on there. You know, because we had Envy, the big green monster. Gluttony was the fat, eat everything. Sloth was the big old monster. We had Greed, who took over. Wow, I can't remember his name now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And then we had Lust, who was the big boob girl. But what other characters did we ever have? All 7 of the sins. Pride. Pride is the last one, right? So Escanor is either pride or lust, and Gowther is either pride or lust. I was trying to think of their personalities, but it wasn't really getting me anywhere. Okay, I'm gonna look it up real fast just because I want to know. Let's see. I think it's in Japanese. So Nanatsu no Taizai season 1. Okay, let's try not to look up any more than that. Let's look up Gowther. Lust. Okay. Okay, so Gowther is lust, which means, oh wow, they don't even, like, show Escanor to know if I got his name right. So Pride is the one we're missing. Okay. Sorry about that, guys. But I remember now. I remember the 7. I didn't do any prep before I started this video, really, except for, like, thinking of a couple things, but I didn't think of everything or, like, write anything down, you know? So yeah, so that's cool. So Gowther is lust. I'm trying to think of why he's lustful, you know? Like, what makes... Because a lot of the prides, like, Meliodas is wrath because he, like, blew a hole in that town, right? For whatever reason, we still don't have, like, full backstory on that yet. And then, Sloth, King is Sloth because he, like, lost his memory and didn't help his friend or whatnot for, like, 700 years or something like that. Diane is Envy. My guess is just because of how jealous she is of anybody that likes the captain. I don't know if there's any, like, deeper meaning to her character for her envy, or at least that we know yet, you know? And then there is, Greed, Bond, because everybody thought he stole the like, holy water stuff from the fairy forest that made him, immortal. And then Merlin, we don't know much about why she's considered gluttony. We were kind of just introduced to her, so I don't know why she's considered gluttony, you know. And then who'd I miss? Maybe that's all of them. Oh, yeah, and then that leaves Gowther, I think, is the last one that I just don't know, you know. And obviously we haven't been introduced to Escanor or Pride yet, so who knows with him, but yeah, I was just trying to think about why. I was trying to think of his storyline, you know, back when he was taking care of the, that, like, deformed Holy Knight thing being contained in the armor and stuff like that, of why he would be, like, lustful, you know? Anyway. But yeah, as for the story arcs, and I guess the kind of like the genre of the show in general. This is turning out to be a lot longer video than I thought, but that's fine. I really like overpowered characters. I'm not afraid to say that. I say that in a lot of my shows, that for some reason, just seeing a character do ridiculous things because he's ridiculously strong is just a lot of fun to me. I still get, like, a little giddy moment inside when I see that. There's some people I know that hate that. I have a friend that absolutely hates it, you know? But So in the beginning of the show, when Meliodas was just doing this crazy stuff, taking on like um the people that were working under Gilthunder, I think it was, that were sent after after Elizabeth, right in like the first episode when you first find out that Meliodas is a sin. Those guys, when Meliodas was just like destroying them easy, and you first see his like full counter, I think, when I don't know if that guy's a holy knight or someone just trying to be a holy knight. I think they said he wasn't a holy knight, but he did like some big attack, and Meliodas full countered it and stuff like that. That was really cool, just seeing how strong he was. And then that episode where he caught the spear that Gilthunder threw at that village, and just it plowed him through a bunch of buildings, and then he threw it back. Like, that was so damn cool. I also loved their fight in the little arena event where they were trying to win back Diane's holy relic. I love those fight sequences showing how strong just Meliodas and Bond going ham on each other, like cracking the floor and everything. And then also same when they first I guess that was after, because when they first met up with Bond, they did like an arm wrestling match that destroyed an entire building. Like, that stuff is just so satisfying to watch. I don't know why. I actually think I like the first half of like season 1 because of those moments more than I like the second half, because the second half the characters got like, they ended up winning, but they got a lot more destroyed. It went from like, it's like if you take One Punch Man and then actually give him hard fights and make it like a normal anime rather than just like a joke. So I think even though the second half of the season was awesome, I really like that first half just because for some reason OP characters is just so much fun. Like, the time that Meliodas was fighting Gilthunder in that forest, and he was just like playing with him and got injured or whatever on purpose just to get Gilthunder to talk and spill his guts and everything about like all this information, and then he just like from the ground just like hopped back to his feet without even using his hands and was just like, oh, thanks for the info, stuff like that, and then just like kicked his butt and stuff like that. I really like moments like that, and like they get him in like the lightning trap, you'll never escape this, and he's just like ching and breaks out of it. Like, I don't know, that stuff is just like, I love OP characters. I don't know. I think it might be because one of my first animes, or some of my first animes, when I was a kid, I watched Naruto before I realized what anime really was, and I loved whenever Naruto went in his, nine-tailed chakra mode or whatever and everything, and just like completely destroyed his opponent. And then when I really got into anime, one of the first ones I watched from beginning to end, just binging the crap out of it, was Bleach. And which is coming back, by the way, and I will be doing reactions. I did read the manga, unfortunately, because I never thought the anime would come back. So I do know the manga for everything that happened after the anime, but I read it a while ago. I'm not completely refreshed on it, and then watching it as animation will be just as fun anyway. So I'll be doing reactions to that probably as soon as it comes out. Honestly, I might even open up a new slot just to watch it, but we'll see whenever that comes around. But Bleach was one of the first ones I watched, so Ichigo was always, even though he struggled on on some of his fights, a lot of his fights, there was still that like, oh my god, he has so much like spiritual power, or spiritual energy or whatever it was called on there. And he was always able to like overcome the fights and everything, and that was like where I really started to really like the OP protagonists and stuff like that. So but yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to seeing season 2 of Seven Deadly Sins. Once again, apologies for the beginning of this video with me not quite knowing all the sins and everything. I probably should have listed it all out and figured it all out before I started this video, so that way I didn't go through that, but you guys got to see the journey of me trying to remember. But for some reason, things like the sins and remembering all 7, I feel like there's always 1 or 2 that I forget, you know? But and there's other instances of that too. There's like one of my games where there's like 6 little challenges you have to finish, and they're all named separately. And you know, I can think of like 5 of them, but I can never think of the 6th. It's always like that. There's always like whenever there's like a list of things that you see repeatedly, there's always like one that I somehow can't remember. I don't know why it's always like that for me, but now we do got it. We got it. So I hope there's not like a. I don't know why I feel like there's a character I completely overlooked, but I don't think there is. I guess I didn't. Did I really talk about King much? I guess I didn't, right? I think he's a cool character. I will say I'm not a fan of how much he like holds back, I guess. I really like the time that he got serious, but like diverted like all of his power to shield Diane, and there was someone else, I think, too, and healed him up and stuff like that. That moment, that was really cool. But there was other points where they were like, you could have totally destroyed me if you used your full power, but like apparently he didn't, you know, and stuff like that. I'm always not a fan of when like a character like just holds back like that and just loses a fight because of that or something. But I'm also like I'm more partial to actually seeing characters like get up in the action, you know, and he kind of sits back and waves his hand controlling his weapon. Even though I really like his weapon and how it can like transform, I love his backstory, his connection to Bond, his connection to Diane, and everything. It's like it's really cool, but he's just not like my favorite, you know. Um, if I were to say a favorite, I would say Meliodas, just because, like I said, I like badass characters, and I love how badass Meliodas can be, at least in like the first half of season 1 and stuff like that, and all that. But I'm really interested to know more. I'm not sure where we're going to be going in season 2. I had my theories after rewatching. They seeded several things, right? They seeded the whole King Arthur and going there and helping King Arthur with whatever he needed help with, you know. And then they also seeded finding Escanor. That's why Elizabeth joined them again, because she didn't find all the sins. And then, what else did they seed in there? I thought there was one more thing. Shoot. I swear there was one more thing that they seeded into, towards the ending. It might have even been like the last episode. Oh, the backstory of Merlin and Meliodas. Meliodas kept saying throughout the show, whenever Merlin appeared, oh, I forgot to ask her what happened 10 years ago. And then when she finally did, she said it's a long story. I wonder if maybe these 4 episodes that I'm about to get into are possibly the 4 episodes that are like the backstory of what happened between Meliodas and Merlin, or whatever Merlin did back. It might even be between the whole 7, at least in group. It might not just be those 2, you know. But Meliodas has always been wondering that, and she kept saying it was a long story and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe we'll get into that, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff that happened in the show that I forgot to talk about and stuff like that, but those were a lot of the moments that stuck out. Those are my opinions on the show, and everything. I think I'm going to wrap it up and jump into watching the first episode of Season 2 immediately after this, so I really wanted to do this so that way I didn't have to do a long discussion at the beginning of my first video, you know? So... But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this review. I'll probably do these kind of reviews anytime there's a show that I watched season 1 of before season 2 came out. I mean, before I started reactions, you know, and then watching season 2 on the channel. So things like Mob Psycho, One Punch Man. Wow, I butchered both of those. Mob Psycho 100, One Punch Man, and all those. I've seen season 1, but I haven't seen season 2. They've been on my polls for a while now and stuff like that. If those ever win, things like that, I think I'll probably do these reviews videos like this on the previous seasons, just so that way you guys can kind of know where I stand on the show before I jump into the season 2 and stuff. So once again, hopefully you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you did. You can also check out my Patreon down in the description, where you can get access to early access if you want to see shows ahead of time, or Patreon shows, which are specific shows that release fully on Patreon before you'll ever see them on YouTube. So check those out if you're interested. But yeah, guys, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in my future reactions. Bye-bye.